The basement had always been a place of dread for me. Its shadows seemed to stretch out like grasping fingers, pulling at my sanity. Every creak of the wooden stairs, every flicker of the single, dim light bulb, sent shivers down my spine. Yet, on that fateful night, curiosity and a twisted sense of determination led me down the rickety steps. I had inherited this old, dilapidated house from my estranged uncle, a recluse who had spent his final years hiding away from the world. The house itself was a relic of another era, with creaky floorboards, peeling wallpaper, and secrets buried within its very foundation. But the basement was something else entirely, a place I had avoided since my first visit. As I descended the stairs, the air grew heavy with the musty scent of age and neglect. The walls seemed to close in around me, and the single, dim light bulb did little to dispel the darkness. Cobwebs hung like tattered curtains, and the dust motes danced in the beam of light, creating a surreal, almost otherworldly atmosphere. My footsteps echoed in the cavernous space, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. I told myself it was just my imagination, that basements were inherently eerie places. But deep down, I knew there was something more to it, something lurking in the shadows. I reached the bottom of the stairs and scanned the room. It was cluttered with old, forgotten relics, boxes of decaying books, broken furniture, and dusty, forgotten memories. But what caught my attention was a door, tucked away in a far corner, partially concealed by a tattered curtain. As I approached it, a shiver ran down my spine. The door was old, with peeling paint and a rusted handle. I reached out to turn it, and it creaked open slowly, revealing a passage that seemed to lead even deeper into the earth. I hesitated for a moment, my heart pounding, but something compelled me to enter. The passage was narrow, barely wide enough for me to squeeze through. The air grew colder, and I could feel the oppressive weight of the earth above me. My footsteps echoed louder, and it was as if the very walls were closing in on me. I reached a dead end, a small chamber that seemed to have been hewn from the very rock itself. And there, in the center of the room, stood a solitary, ancient-looking mirror. Its frame was ornate and covered in dust, but the glass itself was pristine, as if untouched by the passage of time. I stared at my reflection, feeling a strange, almost magnetic pull towards the mirror. My reflection seemed to waver and distort, as if it were not my own. My heart raced as I reached out to touch the glass, my fingers making contact with the cold surface. Suddenly, the room seemed to spin around me. I felt myself being pulled into the mirror, my surroundings dissolving into a swirling vortex of darkness. Panic gripped me as I realized I was no longer in the basement, but somewhere else entirely. I stood in a place that defied description, an endless expanse of darkness, punctuated by strange, twisted shapes that writhed and shifted in the shadows. The air was heavy with a foul, acrid stench, and a sense of dread washed over me like a tidal wave. I tried to move, to run, but my feet were rooted to the ground, as if some unseen force held me in place. I called out, but my voice was swallowed by the darkness, leaving only an eerie, hollow silence in its wake. And then I heard it, a faint, distant whisper, like a murmur carried on the wind. It grew louder and more insistent, filling my ears with incomprehensible words and guttural, inhuman sounds. It was a language I had never heard before, and yet it felt strangely familiar, as if it were etched into the very fabric of my being. I felt a presence, a malevolent force that seemed to surround me, closing in from all sides. It was as if the darkness itself had come alive, and I was trapped within its suffocating embrace. Desperation and terror welled up inside me, and I closed my eyes, willing myself to wake from this nightmare. But when I opened them again, I was back in the basement, standing before the ancient mirror. I stumbled away from it, gasping for breath, my heart pounding in my chest. The room seemed to have grown colder, and the air was thick with a palpable sense of malevolence. The mirror's frame had changed, its once ornate design now twisted and grotesque. I knew then that I had unleashed something unspeakable, something that should have remained hidden in the depths of that accursed basement. I tried to leave, to climb the stairs and escape from that dreadful place, but the door at the top of the stairs was gone, replaced by a solid wall of earth and stone. Panic gripped me as I realized I was trapped, sealed within this nightmarish abyss. I screamed, my voice echoing through the darkness, but there was no one to hear me, no one to save me from the horrors that lurked in the unseen depths. And as I stood there, trembling in the cold, suffocating darkness, I knew that I would never escape, that I would be forever lost in the abyss of the basement, a prisoner to the malevolent force that I had foolishly awakened.